No one trusts ads anymore, not even us. And we live in marketing. But you know who people do trust? Creators, friends, Reddit threads. With Impact.com, you turn trust into traffic by turning your fans into marketers. Welcome back to another episode of the Marketing Millennials podcast. Today's guest, Robyn Nissim, was doing influencer marketing before it even had a name. She helped Aloe Yoga grow revenue through organic social, built Ulta's first influencer program, and took Anastasia Beverly Hills to 24 million followers. We chatted about the early days of social, the mistakes brands keep making with social and influencer, and how to run social like it actually matters. Here's the episode with Robyn. Hope you enjoy.
Welcome to the Marketing Millennials, the No BS Marketing Podcast. I'm Daniel Murray, and join me for unfiltered conversations with the brains behind marketing's coolest companies. The one request I tell our guests, stories or it didn't happen. Get ready to turn the up.
Welcome back to another episode of the Marketing Millennials. Today I have Robyn on the podcast. Robyn has been in the social world and worked for some of the coolest brands. I'll let her talk about the cool brands, but I've probably repped most of the brands she's worked at, so I'm excited to talk about it. But welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Daniel. As a marketing millennial myself, it definitely feels like it's time to come on and chat.
I want to get started just like, how did you get in the social influencer space?
So that's such a good question. So when I graduated college and entered the workforce, the word millennial was actually trending. And so I was working in traditional advertising at an agency called TBWA Chiat Day. And I was just very honest with every executive in the room when they asked me, "Hey, millennial, how do we reach you?" And I was like, "Listen, I'm gonna be honest with you. There's no world where I will ever see this TV commercial that you guys have funneled $1 million into, because I don't watch TV. I stream everything from my computer. I have an ad blocker, and I'm addicted to social media. And so me and all my friends are there. It's where I get my news. It's where I spend my free time. Like, I'm just obsessed." And that allowed me to open up brand channels on social for Michelin and Nissan, and the rest is history.
And I know, and then you kept rising the ranks, worked for some cool brands, Aloe. You've worked fractionally for some cool brands too.
And so I ended up actually winning a Webby Award working on Nissan. And at that moment, I kind of thought like, okay, like I am carrying the team on my back, and I quit the agency world. And I was so quickly humbled by the power of global brand recognition. Like, obviously it's really easy to get dead mouse's attention when you're Nissan, right? But when I started freelancing, I learned very quickly that when you are a not as well-known name brand, when you're a startup and you have zero budget, it's really hard to get in front of people. And so I had to get really scrappy. And I thought, okay, what if we find people online that like have large followings and get them to talk about our product? And that ultimately allowed me to get into the influencer marketing space. I built out Ulta Beauty's first ever influencer marketing program, doing all execution by myself and running partnership with the client back in 2015, scaled that program to $1 million really fast. And then from there, I went in-house and was head of social at brands like Anastasia Beverly Hills and Aloe Yoga, which was just both career making in the sense that it was the pandemic and they were brands that had big budgets and already really great brand equity. And I was able to prove some really amazing results. And then for the past 3 years, I've been consulting fractionally as a VP of social for brands like Mind Valley and MeUndies and Mattel Creations, and have pivoted into more of like a social media advisory and education role in my career now.
Could you give how much the influencer space has changed in the last 5-10 years, and then we could go into how brands should think about doing these type of partnerships, how to do it if you're a small brand, a media brand, a large brand?
Yeah. So 2015 genuinely was the Wild West. I see a lot of people saying now like, well, influencer and social is really like the wild, wild west. And it's like, no, babe, it's not. Like you can actually now attribute a lot. Before we really were just shooting in the dark. Social wasn't a revenue driving channel. There was no ability to drive traffic to the website. Everything was 100% pure brand, right? You were tracking pure engagement metrics as well as link clicks. And that was really it. Maybe sales, but not a lot of people were tracking sales back then. And so with influencer, it really was, number one, so much less crowded. The same group of influencers would get all of the work because there weren't as many influencers. Whereas today there's a whole creator economy, right? Like it's competitive across the board in terms of how many brands are in the space and how many partners there are for these brands to work with. There's so much more noise. What was in 2015 revolutionary, for example, I'll never forget working with Ulta Beauty. They had this every summer a sale. It's called the Summer Sales Event. And it was truly the biggest deal ever for us to allow creators, influencers, we didn't even call them creators back then, to allow influencers to go in store and post on stories in real time without the brand reviewing the content for people to just see, right? Because we really wanted to make that influencer going in store and bringing the audience with them in hopes to getting the audience in store too, an authentic thing. Whereas now that's modern day consumer behavior, and like influencers and the review and approval process has been completely flipped on its head, right? They're doing whatever they want. And that's a good thing. It's their audience. But just looking at how big the shift is, right? In terms of how easy it was to like bring things to life. And it's still easier now, but you have to cut through in so many ways. How you kind of just threw it out into the world and you would measure success based upon like, oh, how many people saw it? That's great. Whereas now we're asking originally brand driven channels to be able to like compete against performance style metrics. Definitely a huge shift in the sense that I think there's so much more of a story, a full picture story that we can tell today in terms of where traffic is coming from, who is good at converting versus who you want to use for awareness, who is able to drive actual sales, who can bring people to an event in real life, and even, the advanced approach to influencer now with like treating them like a whole CRM and like using win back strategies on your influencers to get them to talk about your brands, right? It's a completely different arena in the sense that there's so much more money to be made now, I think genuinely, than there was back when it was just getting started.
Which makes total sense. I mean, celebrities were still the biggest thing there. Instagram was just becoming popular. Snapchat was just becoming popular. There was no TikTok. There was no going really viral on Reels like you can go now and go viral on TikTok. There was a little bit, but the virality came from the top, the people who were early, and now anybody can go viral, which is a big difference. But I want to ask you, like, if I came to you and I was like, hey, I want to set up my influencer marketing program for my company, what is like the first 1, 2, 3 steps that you would take to like look at my brand, tell me like what I should start doing, and what influencers I should go after, and let's start there.
Right. That's a great question. And so I think, of course, we want to get super clear on your goals and your objectives, right? Like, what are you trying to do with influencer? My guess is you want to drive awareness, and then you also want to drive impact on your bottom line. That's like genuinely, really like usually the goal, right? And so it would depend on what your budget is. But what I would want to do is I would probably want to start a few different initiatives. So number one, I would want to look into like, what is your existing social community like, and who can we pull from that existing community and make them advocates? Like, is there anyone here that we can seed product to, bring in house to create events and like work from within the community and move outward? So I think that would be approach number one. And the reason why I want to do that is because we want to harness what your business has already built, right? And work with what you have first to see like what results we can get from that, because that's going to be true. That's going to be authentic. And then number two, I would try and find people who align with your brand. So whether that is, a mom, or maybe it's a fitness dad, or maybe it's someone who's not a parent and they like to party and they're young. Like, it just depends on what your product is. And I would run some test campaigns within your budget to see, okay, like, who is doing what for us? Because I hold the belief that you're never going to know how a creator or an influencer performs for you and what their role is in your business truly until you test it. And in my opinion, I think you need to give people like a 3-month trial or a minimum of like a few weeks where they're talking about your product consistently, multiple touch points within their community, their audiences, AKA, I'll say it a bunch of different ways because my toxic trait is I speak in marketing jargon. So, is you want to give them multiple assets that you want them to create for you, multiple touch points within their audience, so that it's not just like a one and done partnership. Because if we think about the social scape now, there's so much noise. You can go one video from someone telling you, eat carrots every day, this will save your life. And then the next video will be like, actually, carrots are so bad for you and you should never be eating them. And here are 100 reasons why. And so when you think about consumers living in that world, you need to almost reinforce your message in order to cut through and get across. And so if you're signing an influencer with like a one-off deal, chances are like they might convert, but you're not setting them up for success. Whereas if you have a longer term partnership where you have an influencer take their audience on a journey, I'm trying this new thing, let's test it out, I'll check back in next week. 3 months later, I still love it. If that person after 3 months isn't converting, great, you cut them. Thanks for, the partnership, but let's find someone who after 3 months, now we're starting to see a lift from this creator, and that could impact your business in a much better way. And so that's kind of how I would go about it. Sorry, it was very long-winded. I would start within the community and then run a test campaign.
I think that's the nitty-gritty I think people need. I also think for some reason we forget that when we're running ads or we're running all these stuff, we're hitting people 4, 5, 6 times and they converting maybe on the 7th, 8th, and 9th time on an ad. But we like with an influencer, we're just go to the algorithm, let the algorithm like take off. You only get one shot for ever doing this. And it could be in the 4th video that they go viral or something happens or the messaging started clicking with these 4 people, or
right.
It's repetition. Like some people need to see something all over and over to get it. And one time's I say this in the B2B space all the time. Yeah. One ad. And also on the other flip side is you'll have more affinity with a creator that they'll talk about you beyond the ad campaign if you partner with them long term, because they know that you trust them, that you're committed, that you're invested in them. Where like one-off buys, that creator is just going to do one thing for you and forget your brand ever existed, unless they're a raving fan of your brand.
Right. Or unless they just have insane reach and are like the it girl, it guy of the moment, right? Like we know there are certain creators that if someone paid them $1 million, they would see a return on that investment. Would I recommend that? I'm not sure. But like we think about Kardashians, we think about Alex Earl, we think about the Pauls, right? Even the D'Amelio girls, like Addison Rae. There are certain creators that have insane, crazy reach and super almost cult-like audiences. But at the end of the day, those creators are like the 1% of creators, and it's probably not going to do for your business what a longer term, slower build of an approach would do, like the strategy that I laid out.
Yeah. And like, for example, let's talk about a fitness brand. A lot of people are following someone just for that topic.
Right.
So if they see you are wearing, let's say, aloe yoga and every one of your fitness videos and doing workouts with those things and going through like their new shirt that they bought and what they like about it. And, oh, I'm putting on my aloe before I go do this, versus like D'Amelio talking about that, who might not be in the working out space. And
Sure.
like they
right.
those people have cult workout following. So if you're going for
Right.
more niche, you're going to attack a niche following like of raving fans like that.
Exactly. And that's exactly what we mean when we say you want to align your audience with your creator, right? And so that was actually like a big strategy of ours at Aloe. Actually, when I started at Aloe Yoga, Aloe didn't exist. It was Aloe Yoga, and it presented to the world as a yoga centric brand that was really popular with affluent moms who, yes, had a wellness practice, but also could afford really expensive loungewear and like were wearing leggings all day long. Right. And what we did is we leveraged the power of creators, the power of influencer to shift the brand perception. So we kept that Aloe Yoga Instagram following that we had already that was over 1 million. And we started playing in the space of maybe Pilates girls, maybe fashion girls who did their little workout in the morning because they know it's good for them, but then they spend the rest of their day in their workout clothes because they didn't really sweat and they're getting their coffee and they're out to brunch with their girlfriends and whatever. Into the weightlifting crowd, we started Aloe Men, which was heavy men's performance, and we leveraged influencer to tap those new audiences and really help grow the brand.
What does it look like building an influencer campaign? Like, what does it look like with the back end of creating a brief to paying the influencers to coordinating all these different pieces of content going out? I think that's a lot of misty for a lot of brands, what that actually looks like.
Yeah. So I always love to preface it with social and influencer. There is no single right way to do anything. So take this as a grain of salt. And what works for one brand isn't going to work for another. And what one brand's resources is non-existent to another. But that being said, it was for a very long time a super manual process, and I always would manage everything in spreadsheets. And now luckily there are some platforms that can help you automate it a little bit more. But so it's like, okay, we have our influencer partners. Let's just continue using Aloe for an example. And for context, when I started at Aloe back in 2020, it was like we went for volume. The influencer strategy was volume. We wanted to be everywhere, doing everything all at once. And so we were not optimizing influencer for anything other than like, we just need to get as many creators signed as soon as possible. And so we knew from an internal perspective that not all creators would be creating content that me, head of social, would be able to use on feed, but we would be hitting our KPIs in terms of impressions and reach that were the other influencer goals. And so with that, there was an approach of some of these creators are just getting our weekly drops so that people can see the range and the color palette of all of the content that we're putting out. Then we had our creators who were really good at creating content and that aligned with the content strategy that I wanted to go with on social. And those creators would get specific briefs. So maybe it was like, we want to see you getting dressed, We want to see you going out into the world and mindfully moving your body, highlighting how these clothes like look good and in turn make you feel good. And that's an example of a brief that I would get, and then content that I would be able to use. And then of course we could then funnel that over to our paid media team as well to help amplify and really grow the brand to reach these new audiences. Another example is I want to see you working out with weights. Like I want to see a hardcore heavy workout, nothing yoga. We need you wearing shoes. Like we're targeting now like a fit chick here. But not going so deep into the like Gymshark range, right? Because that's not the same customer. Gymshark is not buying aloe, and we're not trying to get those people. We're trying to get the like more Lululemon, a little more higher end, prestige, affluent, in terms of disposable income. And so really segmenting out those briefs and being very clear about, hey, you can do whatever you want in the video, but here's the premise. We need it to be fitness. I need to see the logos on the clothes, and I need you to send it back to me with no text on screen, no sound. I need raw files. You can do whatever you want for your content that you're posting on your channel. But for me, I need raw files always, so that I could do whatever I want in paid, right? Making sure that we're not running into any copyright infringement issues ever. And then we get the content. Let's just say it goes live. We have, platforms that are tracking for us what the reach was, what our earned media value is in terms of working with these partners. And then I'm also looking at how is a creator performing, right? Are they a reach creator? Are they bringing people into the brand? Are they growing my following? Is Aloe growing because of these people? Am I seeing a sales lift from any single creator? Are we getting now internally any results from posting with this creator? If we collab with them, are we getting crossover? And so really looking at those metrics from an individual creator basis as well as the brand, right? How are they performing on our brand page? Do people like them? Do people want to see more of this? And then really seeing, okay, is there an opportunity to bring them into the brand? Is there an opportunity to go deeper and maybe give this creator their own landing page because we now have people telling us they love the way that this girl, boy, whoever styled the look. And I think that's kind of the whole, in terms of internal resources, individual journey of like, how deep are you going to go? Are you putting this creator on your PDPs? Are you giving them personal landing pages to shop their Aloe look? Are you bringing them in for events? Are you asking them to co-host an event with you as a brand to build community? There's so many facets that you can turn on with creator marketing. And so those are the considerations I would take. And then it depends on your campaign structure. Is there a monthly payroll? Do you have creators on retainer? Are you doing a one-off piece where you get the content and then they submit an invoice, right? There are those other logistical, just business things you need to think about. And I guess I should have started out in the beginning too with like getting creators the actual product, right? Do you have an internal system where creators have their own shopping experience and are allotted X amount of pieces a month? Or do you distribute your product on a per drop basis? Like those are other things you would have to consider at the upfront of the campaign too, in the briefing process.
We're getting into the weeds. I think there's so much nitty gritty, and what you said is true for like most marketing. Is one way of doing things is not the same way for another company.
Yeah.
But I also want to ask you is, you said there's a big difference from 2015 to 2025. And one of the biggest differences is there's a lot more noise in the market. So what are some things you recommend brands do to start like standing out? Because I feel like a lot of brands are still running the 2021 influencer playbook, where now it's way harder to compete, not having content that's actually being seen by people, and with algorithms where any creator could win these days.
Yeah.
So what is like the biggest difference, and how would you recommend someone stand out right now? Here's the truth, marketers. People don't pause their scroll for ads. They stop for people. A product review, a creator story, a quick tag from someone they follow. That's why smart brands use impact.com to turn fans, affiliates, and creators into their real growth engine. You don't need another polished ad. You need trust. Build trust where it matters. Impact.com.
That's a great question. I think that you have to have this flywheel of four really strong things. I think number one, you need to have a really strong social strategy that is super clear about like who you're talking to, what you're saying, why are you saying this? Like a real strategy, not just creating content and putting it out into the world, like creating content with purpose, right? And then aligning your influencer strategy exactly with that social strategy so that you're able to almost treat it like it's like a layer of paid media, right? And figuring out what works. So if you're trying to target new consumers, if you're trying to teach people something, and I'm trying to think of an example off the top of my head to even create it for B2B, but it's like you need to find a way to shorten the funnel into one video. Because what we're seeing now on TikTok is that exists where someone who's completely new to brand can see, a video, they can watch an entire transformation in that 30-second video and also shop from TikTok shop from that video. And it's kind of eliminated a lot of the like funnel purchasing process buyer journey. And I think that that's the like gold star, gold mine, but it's not so easy and it's definitely not the industry standard. And so by having your social content strategy really clearly taking users through that funnel, and maybe it's not all in one video, but getting really clear, this is who we're talking to, this is what we want them to learn, and this is what that transformation looks like. This is what the desired end state is. Mirroring that with influencer so you can syndicate it out, reach more people, expand your target, influence your target, show your target that transformation, whatever it looks like, right? And then also the third thing is like events. You need to bring them from URL to IRL, right? Get them in front of you so that you can make that sale easier, whether it's a B2B day of education and now you've built trust with these people because you brought them in to learn for free and they see what a value your platform or your tech software, whatever is adding to their life, right? Or if that's like an aesthetic event, if that's a workout with Aloe Yoga. And then once you've kind of like figured out that sweet spot between social marketing, influencer marketing, and events, amplify all of that with paid media. And I think that's how you stand out.
I love it. I was just talking to Nick Tran. He used to be like the head of marketing of TikTok, and and Farfetch. And he was talking about like if he would start his strategy over again, the four things he would do is have strong social events, influencer, and like PR, like earned PR, because earned PR gets indexed in AI now. So like he would have this flywheel of like social, influencer, and then when you're in person, you get that PR effect of like, oh, like Aloe did this really well. Everything you're saying is like Aloe. I know we're talking about Aloe right now, but a lot of companies do it well. But like they have the great social. The influencers was there.
Yeah, Aloe crushed. It's undeniable.
Yeah, and influencer events, but then it's all over with PR. Like Aloe's doing all these things, and it's like they crushed the playbook of what now the playbook should be. It's there, just people aren't replicating it very well. So what you just laid out is exactly what I think people should start thinking, and especially in B2B where so low hanging fruit, you're not going against these e-com people who know this playbook very well. You're going against B2B marketers who are used to doing just paid media and search, and that's it.
Yeah. For me with B2B, Going from working at big brands that like truly all of these like B2B platforms would like pull out the stops to just get you on their platform, right? To now being a solopreneur and having to like figure everything out myself. I'm like, you guys are honestly, you're missing so much opportunity. Someone like me who has influence in the industry. I have a very small following who trusts what I say. If you could just give me an experience with your platform that doesn't make it so hard for me to figure things out and like sit on a 3-hour long chatbot experience just to get an email out the door. Like, I feel like there's so much space for the B2B industry to catch up. Like, they are truly living in dinosaur land. And I just want to be like, hey guys, let me help you, because there's so much from the B2C playbook that you can be using.
People say like B2B is usually like 5 years behind like the B2C industry, which is kind of true if you think about it. Creators started getting really big probably 5 to 7 years ago, and 5 years later, like you're starting to see all these B2B creators come up, and podcasts being a big thing, and it's becoming a new thing. But I want to ask you one last question: is what is a marketing hill you would die on?
That's a good question. A marketing hill that I will die on is that you need organic social. Like, you need organic social. I don't care what the data says, because like there's still not enough data to prove that it's not worthy when, yes, you have brands who are like spending money on social, but are they even really spending that much money? Versus brands like Aloe, like transparently, after a year, I took Aloe's organic revenue on social to $17 million a month. So I can make a really good case as to like why you should fund social. $17 million a month is pretty epic. And of course, there was like residual dollars that came from paid media. But the difference is when we look at that, paid media, you are paying to play. You put money in and you're guaranteed money out. It's like gambling, literally. Like, that's how it works. Except for it's like a little better than gambling in the sense that like you don't always get your money back when you're gambling, right? You're going to get some money back, but like, is it going to be money well spent? Is it going to be money that gives you the consumer that stays with you for, you know, a long time? Or is it a single purchase and then you never see them again? Is it really your core consumer, right? Like, and that's where a lot of money gets burnt in paid media is like, yeah, you're getting consumers, but are you getting the right ones? And like, what's the lifetime value of that person? Whereas with organic social, you are earning that audience and they're coming to you because they like you and you're building a real connection with them. And I would argue that that audience over time, yes, it's going to take a longer time to earn. Yeah, you're going to have to spend as much money as you're putting into creating assets for paid, right? But that audience is the audience that you want and that is going to ride for your brand and create brand affinity and create brand love. It's your community, right? They're who you can truly turn to as opposed to like renting an audience. And so that's the hill I would die on is like organic social matters. There's not enough compelling data to say why, because if we go back to the top of the conversation, just 10 years ago, there was no data about organic social. Okay. So like, you need organic social.
I mean, I always say +1 to organic social. I think not only for the earned dollars, but organic social can make creative that goes on all different on your PDPs, on your paid assets. And we're getting to a stage in marketing where it's harder to win on paid because the creative is what's going to win. And the people who know what wins on those paid social platforms are the people who are winning on organic social. So you have if you have an organic social person who can, like you said, get that raw footage from that influencer, cut that up into a thing that will be work well on organic, but also work well. And organic could test it as a one step before it even goes to paid. You could do so much of that flywheel of like paid organic, but a lot of people think of paid organic as two separate teams when they should be working as a flywheel together to win.
1,000%. And on top of that too, organic social really is like the girl who can do it all, right? That's what I always say about social media. It can pull together all of your weirdly fragmented marketing tactics and things that you've tried into the world. And like social can make sense of it, right? Whereas if you're looking at your website, it can seem like really disconjointed and all over the place. But on social, it's just content, right? And it funnels people to where they need to go within brand. It is the one truly owned like PR platform, right? It's your owned communication channel that people don't have to opt into to see. People aren't just being shown your website. People aren't just on your newsletter list magically, but on social, they could just see your brand and decide, hey, I like this. I want more. I want to be a part of this ecosystem. Whereas with paid media, you're infiltrating people's lives. And maybe your ad works great, maybe it doesn't. But a lot of the times I know for sure I'll go and look at an actual brand's page. And like, if you don't have a community for me to join, like, I just know this is a purely like paid for tactic. And I'm not sure that that's how the average consumer behaves, but like, my argument is, wouldn't you want to have a community to funnel then those paid people into to see if it sticks and if it resonates and if there's a home for them here? And so, yeah, organic social forever.
No, I don't think you're the only one. When my wife, when she looks at a brand to buy, she'll go look at what influencers are following that brand. Is her friends following that brand? Like, even if we're going to a restaurant or a hotel or anything, she'll like look ahead of time and say, who's following that brand? Because it's social proof that if those cool people are doing it, then I should be going to that place too. So I think that you're right. It is like you're in another landing page that people don't think. And then if you're funding paid traffic to a place where it looks dead, it's just a bad strategy in general. But lastly, I want to give you a couple minutes to tell people where they could find what you're doing and find you.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm active on LinkedIn. I'm the most active there. You can find me, Robyn Nissim. I have a little link in my bio there or on my page where you can come deeper and join my newsletter. I send out my social proof newsletter every Friday. I run a number of group training programs if you want to learn how to run social for brands really well, eliminate the guesswork, just have someone give you proven playbook processes, help you build a strategy that will impact your bottom line so that you don't have to deal with that on top of your actual job, right? Of running social every day. My group training kicks off this summer. I have a masterclass on June 9th that if anyone is interested in getting a taste of group training, I'll get into the fundamentals of building a social strategy. And I really do need to start posting more on other channels like Instagram and whatnot, but LinkedIn is best for now.
Yeah, I mean, it's a perfect example of if you're starting, you just be on the channels that you can dominate at first and then go. But yeah, everybody go follow Robyn. She's great. She knows her stuff. She knows influence. She knows social. She knows the playbook. So if you're looking to dominate on those platforms, go hit her up. Thank you so much. And thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was fun.
Thanks so much for listening. Keep tuning in to hear more great insights from the coolest marketers from around the world. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and follow the Marketing Millennials podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. And if you like what you hear, I would greatly appreciate you giving us a 5-star rating. It helps bring more marketers into our community.